Wade McAllister stood at his wife's grave, the desert sun beating down on his weathered face. The leather of his holster
You're
creaked
safe,
as he drew
Sam.
the Colt 45, turning it in his hands to catch the name engraved on the barrel. Samuel Turner. 6 months since Catherine's death, and the weight of the gun still felt like judgment in his palm. He tucked a folded newspaper into his jacket, his own advertisement circled in ink. Seeking wife. No questions about my past required. Lodging and security provided. No love expected or offered. The cemetery stretched empty in all directions. Nothing but crosses and dust. Wade holstered his weapon, touched the simple wooden marker one last time, and mounted his horse. Redemption, Arizona awaited, along with whoever had answered his desperate call. The church at the edge of Redemption stood like a rotting tooth against the skyline. Inside, dust motes danced in shafts of light filtering through dirty windows. Reverend Miller swayed slightly, the smell of cheap whiskey emanating from him as three strangers sat scattered in pews, witnesses pulled from the saloon for $5 each. "You sure about this, McAllister?" Miller asked, thumbing through a Bible with yellowed pages. "Ain't exactly romantic marrying some mail-order woman sight unseen." Wade's jaw tightened. "Just do your job, Reverend." The door creaked open, silhouetting a slender figure. Sarah Blackwood stepped inside, her gray dress travel-worn but clean. Her dark hair was pulled back severely, revealing high cheekbones and eyes too old for her 30 years. She carried a single small bag, and Wade noticed immediately the calluses on her hands, the dark stains beneath her fingernails that looked like dried herbs or blood. Their eyes met, and in that moment, Wade recognized something dangerous. Not innocence, but a mirror of his own carefully guarded pain. This was not the simple, grateful bride he'd expected. The ceremony lasted precisely 7 minutes. No vows beyond the necessities, no kiss, no smile. When Miller pronounced them husband and wife, Sarah's signature on the document was precise, educated, another warning sign Wade chose to ignore. Outside, the afternoon sun cast long shadows as they walked toward Wade's waiting wagon. They'd made it halfway down the street when 5 men stepped out from between buildings, blocking their path. Jake Turner led them, Samuel's younger brother, his face twisted in a cruel smile beneath his expensive hat. Well, well, Wade McAllister found himself a new wife, trying to hold on to that land of yours by any means necessary, aren't you? Jake's hand rested casually near his holster. That contract you signed is still binding, regardless of who you marry. Wade pushed Sarah slightly behind him. There is no contract, Turner. Your brother forged my signature before he met his deserved end. One of Turner's men spat in the dust. Calling Mr. Samuel a forger? That's a hanging offense, McAllister. So is rape and murder, Wade replied coldly. The tension crackled between them like heat lightning. Wade's hand hovered near his gun when the man nearest Jake suddenly reached for his weapon. Before Wade could draw, something flashed through the air, a knife spinning end over end, burying itself in the gunman's shoulder with a sickening thud. Wade turned, stunned, to see Sarah's arm still extended from the throw, her face calm as death. Next one goes in his eye, she said quietly. Jake Turner's face darkened with rage. You've found yourself a real wildcat, McAllister. She won't save your land, though. He backed away, supporting his wounded man. This isn't over. That silver mine belongs to Turner Brothers Mining, fair and square. Wade grabbed Sarah's arm, pulling her toward the wagon. Where the hell did you learn to throw like that? He demanded. Her eyes remained fixed on Turner's retreating back. My father believed in practical education. The ride to McAllister's ranch passed in silence. 5 miles outside town, the property sprawled across 300 acres of prime grazing land that hid a secret, a vein of silver running beneath the rocky soil, discovered by Wade 2 years earlier, and kept hidden until Samuel Turner somehow learned of it. The house loomed ahead, larger than necessary for one man, built from solid timber and stone. Sarah studied it as they approached, not with appreciation, but with assessment, like a soldier evaluating a defensive position. Inside, Wade carried her bag, setting it by the stairs. Your room is upstairs, first door. I have my own quarters at the end of the hall. Sarah moved through the main room slowly, fingers trailing along surfaces, opening cupboards without asking permission. She found his hidden whiskey bottles beneath the sink, counted them silently, then discovered the loose floorboard where he kept an extra revolver. You're prepared for visitors, she observed. Wade watched her warily. Turner's men don't give up easily. Sarah nodded, then without warning, knelt and pulled up another floorboard Wade thought was secret, revealing his cache of ammunition. Neither do I. That night, Wade showed her the boundaries of their arrangement. Separate rooms, separate lives, a business transaction under the guise of marriage. Sarah accepted these terms without argument, preparing a silent dinner from his meager supplies. Her movements in the kitchen were precise, efficient, nothing wasted. After they ate, Wade retreated to the porch with a bottle. Through the window, he could see Sarah crushing something in a small mortar, herbs from her bag mixed with liquids. Her fingers worked with practiced skill, her concentration absolute. Later, deep in the darkness, Wade woke shouting from dreams of Catherine's blood-soaked body. Sweat-drenched and shaking, he stumbled to the barn, whiskey bottle in hand. In the silence, he smashed his fist repeatedly into a wooden support beam until his knuckles split, the physical pain drowning out the memories. "That's not how you heal a wound," came Sarah's voice from the shadows. Wade spun around, finding her standing in the doorway, a thin nightgown illuminated by moonlight. In her hand, she held a small jar of something green and pungent. "What are you doing here?" he demanded, blood dripping between his fingers. Sarah stepped closer, unafraid of his rage or size. "I know your wounds aren't just in your hands, Wade McAllister. I came here to heal you." She set the jar down, and moonlight glinted off metal as she produced a knife from the folds of her nightgown. "And to kill Jake Turner." Dawn broke over the ranch with blood-red fingers of light. Sarah sat at the kitchen table, Wade's damaged hand between hers as she worked a poultice of herbs into the torn skin. The smell filled the room, bitter and medicinal. "I was an army nurse," she explained, wrapping clean bandages around his knuckles. 4 years in field hospitals during the war between states. I've seen men destroy themselves in more creative ways than you could imagine." Wade studied her face as she worked. "You're not what I advertised for." A smile ghosted across her lips. "And you're not what you pretend to be." A rancher with calloused hands from roping cattle wouldn't split his knuckles so easily. "I fought in the war too," he admitted. "Union cavalry." "I know." She tightened the bandage. "You have a saber scar on your forearm. Only cavalry officers carried sabers." Her knowledge unsettled him, but before he could respond, the sound of hoofbeats approached from the east. Wade moved to the window, cursing under his breath. "Turner's men! 6 of them!" Sarah was already moving, reaching for Wade's rifle above the fireplace. "How many bullets in this?" 15. "But there's more. Under the floorboard, I remember." She checked the chamber with practiced ease. "They're heading for the horse barn." Minutes later, flames erupted from the barn roof, black smoke billowing skyward. 2 of Turner's men held torches, while others circled toward the house. "They're trying to flush us out," Wade said, positioning himself at the west window. Sarah took the east, rifle resting on the sill. "Or burn us alive to make it look like an accident." The first shot shattered glass above Wade's head. He returned fire, catching a rider in the shoulder, sending him tumbling from his horse. Sarah's rifle cracked with precision, dropping another man with a shot to the leg. "Don't kill them unless necessary," Wade called. "That's what Turner wants." An excuse to bring the marshal down on us? The firefight intensified, bullets splintering wood around them. Wade felt something hot graze his side, a bullet tearing through his shirt, cutting a shallow furrow along his ribs. He gasped, pressing his hand against the wound. Sarah was beside him instantly, dragging him behind the heavy oak table she'd overturned. She tore his shirt open, examining the wound with clinical detachment. "Not deep," she murmured, producing a flask from her boot. "This will hurt." Whatever she poured burned like liquid fire, cauterizing the wound instantly. Wade bit back a scream, his vision blurring. "You've done this before," he managed through gritted teeth. Sarah reloaded her rifle one-handed. "More times than I can count." She fired through a broken window, then ducked back down. "Catherine was your wife?" Wade stared at her. "How did you—" "You say her name in your sleep." Sarah's eyes never left the windows. "Samuel Turner killed her?" "Worse than killed her." Understanding passed between them. Sarah nodded once, then rose to fire again. Outside, Turner's men were retreating, dragging their wounded. The barn roof had collapsed entirely, flames devouring years of work. As silence fell, Sarah pressed a cloth soaked in herbal mixture against Wade's side. "We have more in common than you think, Mr. McAllister. My husband died in the war. Not in battle, but murdered by his commanding officer who wanted his commission. A man named Major Jacob Turner." Wade's blood ran cold. "Jake, the same." Sarah's eyes hardened. "I've tracked him for 3 years across 4 territories. When I saw your advertisement in the paper, a man seeking a wife in redemption, where Turner Mining operates, I knew fate had given me the perfect cover." That night, as dark clouds gathered on the horizon, promising a rare desert storm, Wade and Sarah sat across from each other in the kitchen. Between them lay her medical kit: herbs, tinctures, powders, surgical tools, and his map of Turner Brothers mining holdings. "The silver vein runs directly beneath this section of your property," Sarah said, tracing her finger along the map. "That's why they want your land so desperately." Wade nodded. "Samuel discovered it somehow. Came with papers claiming I'd sold him mining rights." He took a long drink of whiskey. "When Catherine refused to sign, his hand tightened around the glass until his knuckles whitened. Sarah placed her hand over his. "You don't need to say it." Thunder rolled outside as rain began lashing against the windows. Wade pulled away from her touch, uncomfortable with the strange intimacy developing between them. "Why did you really answer my advertisement?" he asked. "You could have hunted Turner without marrying a stranger." Sarah rolled up her sleeve, revealing a network of scars along her forearm, deliberate horizontal lines of varying age. Above them, barely visible, was a small tattoo of cavalry insignia. "After my husband died, I had nothing. No purpose except revenge, but no way to get close to Jake Turner." Her finger traced the oldest scar. "I nearly ended it all. Then I received this." She withdrew a folded letter from her pocket, sliding it across the table. Wade opened it carefully, reading the faded handwriting. "To whom it may concern, my name is Catherine McAllister. If you are reading this, I am likely dead. My husband doesn't know I'm writing this. Jake Turner drugged my tea. His brother Samuel did things I cannot describe. They want our land for the silver. They will kill Wade next. Please, if anyone finds this, help him." "There is evidence in Turner's office. Forged documents with my husband's signature. May God forgive me for not being stronger." Wade's hands shook. "Where did you get this?" "It was sent to the Territorial Widows Relief Association, where I volunteered after the war. No one knew what to make of it until I recognized Turner's name." Sarah's eyes held his. "I didn't come just for my revenge, Wade. I came for Catherine's too." The storm intensified, wind howling around the eaves like tortured spirits. In that moment, something shifted between them. Two broken people united by parallel griefs, by the absence of those they'd loved, by the presence of those they hated. When morning came, their plans were interrupted by pounding at the door. Mayor Simmons stood on the porch, his expensive suit incongruous against the mud-splattered landscape. "McAllister," he nodded stiffly, eyeing Sarah with suspicion. "I've come to warn you. Turner's filed formal eviction papers. Claims you attacked his men without provocation. Marshall's giving you 24 hours to vacate." "That's horse shit, and you know it," Wade growled. Simmons shrugged. "Maybe so, but Turner's got 3 wounded men and 12 witnesses saying you fired first." His eyes flickered to the burned ruins of the barn. "Hard to claim self-defense when you're outnumbered." "We're not leaving," Sarah said firmly. "Ma'am, with all due respect, you don't understand the situation. Turner Brothers owns this town. The marshal, the judge, they're all on Jake's payroll." Wade's fist slammed against the doorframe. "This is my land." "Not according to the documents Turner's produced." Simmons lowered his voice. "Look, I'm trying to help you. Take what you can carry and go. Better to be alive somewhere else than dead here." After Simmons departed, Wade threw a whiskey bottle against the wall, glass shattering like his hopes. "He's right. We can't fight the whole damn town." "I'm not running," Sarah said, her voice steel. "Neither are you. This isn't your fight. It became my fight when I said I do in that church." She stepped closer, forcing him to look at her. "You wanted a wife who wouldn't ask questions. Instead, you got a partner who already knows the answers." That night, while Wade drank himself into oblivion, Sarah slipped into his study. Among his papers, she found what she'd suspected. Documents proving the silver vein was much larger than Turner had admitted publicly, extending beneath half the county. Wade's land was just the beginning. By midnight, she had made her decision. Packing her medical bag with specific herbs, powders, and her sharpest surgical blade, she wrote a note and placed it beside Wade's unconscious form. "This is our fight, not just yours. By dawn, I'll have the evidence we need. Trust me as I have trusted you." In the darkness, she mounted Wade's fastest horse and rode toward town, toward Turner's office, toward the man who had destroyed both their lives. Wade woke to sunlight in an empty house, his head pounding from last night's whiskey. Finding Sarah's note, cold dread washed over him. She had gone to face Turner alone. He was mounted and galloping toward town within minutes. The Colt 45 with Samuel Turner's name loaded and ready. As Redemption came into view, he saw a crowd gathered outside the saloon, shouting and jostling. Pushing his way through, Wade entered the dim interior to find Sarah backed against the bar, a knife in one hand, small vial in the other. Opposite her stood Jake Turner and 3 of his men, all with guns drawn. "Your wife was just about to explain why I found her in my office before sunrise," Jake called out, seeing Wade enter. "Something about looking for evidence." Sarah's eyes met Wade's. Blood trickled from a cut on her cheek, but her gaze was steady. "Tell him what you found, Sarah," Wade said, moving slowly to flank Turner's position. "Forged documents," she replied clearly, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Bearing the territorial governor's seal, a seal that's been in Jake Turner's possession illegally. And a letter from Samuel Turner detailing how they plan to murder Wade after forcing him off his land." Jake's face contorted. "Lying bitch!" He raised his gun towards Sarah. Wade drew faster than he had in years, putting a bullet through Turner's shoulder before the man could fire. The saloon erupted in chaos. Gunshots, screaming, breaking glass. 2 of Turner's men went down under Wade's fire, but the third got off a shot that caught Wade in the thigh, sending him crashing into a table. Sarah moved like lightning, throwing her vial at the remaining gunman's face. It shattered, the contents causing him to scream and claw at his eyes. "Acid!" Wade gasped as she reached him, tearing strips from her skirt to bind his bleeding leg. Diluted. He'll keep his eyes, but not his aim for a while. She worked quickly, stemming the blood flow. We need to move. More will come. Jake Turner had crawled behind the bar, still conscious despite his wound. You're both dead, he shouted. I own this town. Outside, boots thundered on the boardwalk. Wade struggled to his feet, leaning on Sarah. We can't outrun them. Sarah glanced around, her mind racing. We don't have to. She pressed her lips close to his ear, whispering her plan. When Mayor Simmons burst through the doors with the marshal and 6 deputies, they found Wade and Sarah cornered, out of ammunition and options. Wade McAllister, you're under arrest for the attempted murder of Jake Turner, the marshal announced, leveling his shotgun. On whose authority? Wade demanded. A corrupt mayor and a murderer? Simmons stepped forward, smug confidence on his face. On the authority of territorial law, the same law that says your land belongs to Turner Mining. Interesting, Sarah said calmly, because I found these in Mr. Turner's safe this morning. She withdrew papers from inside her dress. Deeds showing the mayor owns shares in Turner Mining, receipts for bribes to the marshal, and best of all, a confession from Samuel Turner, written before his death, detailing Catherine McAllister's murder. The saloon went silent. She's lying, Simmons sputtered. Those papers are forgeries. Like the ones claiming Wade sold his land? Sarah countered. I've sent copies to the territorial governor. His men should be arriving by sundown. Jake Turner lunged from behind the bar, a derringer clutched in his left hand. You're all dead before sundown. In the split second before he fired, Sarah threw herself at Wade, knocking him sideways as the bullet meant for him grazed her arm instead. Wade's hand found his boot knife, and with one fluid motion born of battlefield instinct, he sent it spinning through the air. The knife struck true, burying itself in Jake Turner's chest. The man who had orchestrated so much suffering staggered backward, disbelief etched on his features, before collapsing face first onto the sawdust floor. In the stunned silence that followed, Wade pulled himself to Sarah's side. You're hit. She grimaced, clutching her bleeding arm. Just a graze, like yours. Their eyes met, and something unspoken passed between them. Recognition of 2 warriors who had found each other amid the wreckage of their lives. The marshal lowered his shotgun, looking uncertainly between Turner's body and the incriminating papers. I suggest you start thinking about which side of this you want to be on when the governor's men arrive, Sarah said coldly. The winning side or the prison side? 3 weeks later, Wade stood on his porch, watching the sunset paint the desert gold and crimson. His leg was healing, though he still walked with a slight limp. Behind him, the house was transformed, clean, organized, smelling of herbs rather than whiskey. Sarah emerged from inside carrying 2 cups of coffee. She handed one to Wade, coming to stand beside him at the railing. Her arm was still bandaged, but she moved with her usual grace. Governor's letter came today, she said. Turner Mining assets have been seized, the forged documents invalidated. She sipped her coffee. Your land is officially yours again. Wade nodded. Our land? She glanced at him, surprise flickering in her eyes. You want me to stay then? Now that your problems are solved? Instead of answering, Wade reached into his pocket, withdrawing his Colt .45. The name Samuel Turner gleamed on the barrel in the fading light. He offered it to her, handle first. I thought you might want to add another name, he said quietly. Sarah took the gun, running her fingers over the engraving. No, she said finally. I don't need his name on a gun to remember justice was done. She handed the weapon back. Besides, I think Catherine and my husband would want us to engrave something else instead. Wade raised an eyebrow. Like what? Our names. Together. She met his gaze steadily. Unless you still want a wife who asks no questions and expects nothing. Wade holstered the gun, then reached for her hand. His fingers, still scarred but healing, entwined with hers. I wanted a wife who knew nothing to protect myself from pain, he said slowly. Instead, I found a warrior who taught me how to fight again. They stood together as darkness fell, two people who had sought each other for all the wrong reasons, yet found exactly what they needed. Behind them, the house waited, no longer empty, no longer haunted by ghosts of those they'd lost, but filled with possibility for what they might become. Tomorrow, Sarah said softly, we'll engrave those names. Wade nodded, drawing her closer. Tomorrow. But tonight belonged to them alone. Survivors with matching scars and healing wounds. Guardians of each other's broken pieces. Sentinels against the darkness they had both faced and overcome together.